We are Pro Cannabis Media.
Hi everyone, welcome again to Green Rush Live, on recording here from Las Vegas. I'm Jimmy Young from Pro Cannabis Media. We're here for MJBizCon and MJ Unpacked, two huge trade shows for the cannabis industry. And you know, when you're in the cannabis industry, there are certain people that you meet at these shows that somewhere in the last few years during the pandemic have entered your life. And now you're able to actually talk to them, not just Zoom with them, but actually see them in 3D and connect with them. And one of the women that was so gracious to join us over the years when we've been all cooped up in Zoom world, as was Nikki Lawley. She's a former pediatric nurse who has suffered a horrific injury about 5 years ago. And Nikki, not only is she a wonderful person and a great story, but she has opened up this magnificent view that she has from the Cosmopolitan here in Vegas so we can come in and actually talk with you. Nikki, your smile lights up a room. Your story is so special. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you, Jimmy. It's been a pleasure to see how Pro Cannabis Media has grown really exponentially. As your network grows, it helps my network grow, and I'm all about working together and collaboration. So it's great to see how you've grown, and the plant has been amazing and blessed me with great people like yourself.
Thank you. And the plant has healed you. And I'm not sure a lot of people know your story. And it was 5 years ago that you suffered this horrific injury. Can you walk us back? Are you comfortable talking about what you've gone through, and more importantly, the journey off the mat to where you are today, and just a spectacular cannabis advocate from upstate New York. So tell us, if you can, walk us through your life, if you don't mind.
Sure. I was working as a pediatric nurse. I'm an LPN by trade, and I was a happy, working, pretty carefree kind of human, very busy, very social, and just like any other work day, a kid didn't want a vaccine. No big shock there. And I went in to help another nurse restrain the child, and he basically tucked his chin, threw his head back at me, threw me into a wall, and then back into his head. And my life literally changed in that split second. And you look at me today and you say, how can she be where she is if she had this injury happen? Because if you guys saw me before, I literally was planning my death. Traumatic brain injury changed my trajectory of life. I went from being a nurse, a healthcare provider, to now being a patient. We're treated a lot different. I was once respected and, told, how can you possibly still be having symptoms when your injury was so many months ago or weeks ago? It was unbelievable. I'm like, why would I make this up? Why would I want to not work? Why would I not, if you look at my work history, there's a very solid work ethic, and, so I couldn't even imagine someone wanting to be in this position. Like, people don't fake disability, they fake being well. You cannot imagine how hard it was for me to not be in control all the time. And I struggle now because cannabis has given me a way of communicating with people completely different. When my symptoms are kicking up, the anxiety, the depression, the worry, the absolute worry and fear can really take over. And cannabis literally calms my shit down. I mean, I don't know how else to say it in a way that matters. I was literally super stressed out, and I just had an amazing cannabis pre-roll that I honestly don't know the name of right this minute, but it was absolutely amazing. And Jimmy, I think you witnessed that transformation.
By the way, not only have I witnessed the transition, Nikki, with you, but I've experienced it myself. I know what the plant does to our neurotransmitters, to the emotions, the things that make us human, right? The highs, the lows in our lives, right? The stresses, the old don't stress the small stuff, right? Mm-hmm. and yet sometimes that's small. You have so much small stuff. Oh my God, you get overwhelmed, right?
Correct.
So, and I understand how the plant works. Who was the first one that exposed you to the power of the plant, to cannabis?
So it was actually about 4 months after my injury, in late January of 17. My husband thought it would be a good idea to try and cheer me up and got me a trip here to Las Vegas, here at the Cosmo.
Oh, now I understand. Okay, keep going.
So I wound up in Vegas when getting on an airplane, being around people, being around flashing lights and slot machines. Just the thought of it was a horrific concept. But yet, how could I say no? This was always my favorite thing to do. And now all of a sudden, I'm faced with doing it. And I mean, I literally said, Jack, I don't think I can do this. I don't think I can go on vacation. I mean, it's asking too much of me. I mean, all I do is cry. I'm just literally in the corner shrieking in pain. And this went on for months. And then I was put on different cocktails of meds. Then I'd have horrific GI symptoms or horrific allergic reactions, including anaphylaxis from pharmaceuticals. I mean, was I really in a good place? No. So what's sort of crazy is after 3 days of being cooped up in the hotel room and listening to how miserable I'm making my husband, I mean, he understood and was empathetic, but not the way, until it happens to you, Jimmy. I mean, I was a nurse. I didn't understand chronic pain. I didn't understand invisible disabilities, paperwork for disability. I mean, it's all geared so they don't get the benefit. And it's all geared to how can we not pay that person? And instead of trying to help that person and empower that person to want to get off disability, it's literally a system designed to make you fail and feel disempowered. And that just really made a lot of sense right here. I mean, that was a really good, insightful.
Being back here at Las Vegas as a new person has had to have been totally enlightening for you. I mean, totally freeing. I mean, this is almost a celebration of your new Nicky Lawley.
It's sort of like a rebirth. I'm not even kidding. I mean, I genuinely feel I'm making so much more of an impact now, just because people see the real. They see the struggle, but they see how I deal. They see the real, but they see how I deal. It's like people don't want to be around perfect people. They just want to see how you deal with your imperfections.
Oh my God, and Lord knows some of us have more imperfections than perfections, and we're comfortable with those imperfections because guess what? We're both humans. We're frail beings. We have issues in our lives that we have to deal with. And isn't it amazing, in 2021, I really believe for the first time, most people understand that how important mental health is. It's taken a lot of professional athletes coming forward to say, I'm dealing with some shit here, and I turn to weed. Sha'Carri Richardson, an Olympic sprinter for the United States of America, decides to give up her one shot every 4 years. She can come back because she knew she needed the medicine to help her. And now she's, back competing again. Nikki, you're back again. What's the future for you now that you're the new person? I think you want to go out on the speaking circuit and tell your story to others. Am I right?
I've just seen how my story can change people's lives. And I feel like I'm giving others hope when I had none. A billboard literally saved my life by showing me, get your medical marijuana card here today, as I was plotting my death, realizing, the universe just played an insane role that day. And I went to a dispensary with a kid that was understanding, and, it was the wrong stuff for me. But he did his best. And we don't know what we don't know. And we're not born with this knowledge. And for sure, never knew about cannabis as medicine working as a nurse. Immediately when I saw that billboard drive by and said, get your medical marijuana card here today, I was like, oh, that's a really good idea. Immediately I saw the TV ad back from the 80s that your brain on drugs with the egg and your brain and, the whole frying concept. And I'm like, oh, great idea, Nikki. Get your weed card and get your brain frying on drugs. That's got to be great for a brain injury. But I mean, I was melting down, Jimmy. I mean, I was ready to die. I mean, could not continue that quality of life.
You know what's interesting? You know that there's controversy about billboards in cannabis. There are some states that are banning them. Some states don't want them up. One of my biggest issues, and here's a perfect example of why we need them, or more importantly, we need to share information with the public that isn't enlightened about the plant. Because you saw that, before you saw that billboard, you were like, no, you're a child of dare, right?
Yes,
I mean, right?
yes.
Right? So now, you're one person that message saved. Do you know how many times have you heard cannabis has saved my life, cannabis has changed my life? Pretty amazing.
Every day. And anytime I share something about an overcoming situation, I get countless stories right back saying, hey, that's happened to me. I came off all these opiates. I mean, cannabis saved my life, and I'm not saying that just as speaking.
Right.
I mean, it's my passion. I genuinely am driven by the plant and how it can help and heal people. But heal people is different than cure people.
Right.
Cannabis is a tool in my recovery. It is not a cure-all. And what works for me might not work for you, Jimmy,
Right.
because different parts of my brain need receptors that we have, and different types of cannabis really fill those receptors in the right way, and different cultivars really affect me differently. Understanding terpenes and what is in the product I'm utilizing, that's why I would rather pay a little more money via a dispensary, especially Nevada. And I mean, people can argue with me and say it's all corrupt and whatever, but at the end of the day, I understand what percentages of terpenes there are and what percentages, sometimes of minor cannabinoids, depending on the state. But this to me is a fundamental concept of my medicine, and like, a strain name means nothing. I had gelato 25 times from different cultivars, and it's never really been my jam. I had gelato here and by Verano, and it was game changing. It was totally medicating. And so when I heard it was gelato, I'm like, and just because that's been my experience with that name of product. And so COA's, certificates of analysis, the recipe for your cookie dough is so, so important. Because Jimmy, your cookie dough, you might like walnuts. Walnuts will kill me.
Right.
So your ingredients and what you like and what works for you and satisfies your taste is the same thing, isn't necessarily the same thing that will work for me.
And as a medical professional, we're dealing with a medicine that affects everybody differently. And it's not a cure-all, you've already mentioned that, for all things. But you say it's a tool. It's just another tool in that toolbox that humans can use to enhance their living in a responsible way. But unfortunately, because the research is still so limited, you still have to learn by doing it yourself, right?
Absolutely. And not the fact that I didn't give up. So when I got saved with the billboard and got my medical card, I then went back to Buffalo, and A, chronic pain wasn't part of our approved conditions. B, we didn't have any flour. And I found out that I don't metabolize fat-soluble things. I mean, through this journey, it's not been, somebody handed me a piece of paper and said, this is what you need and how it's going to work for you.
It's hard work.
It is, because, finding tested cannabis is, so the fountains are starting,
The fountains
Jimmy.
behind us at the Bellagio?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, here they go. Wow. Dan, I don't know. Can you pan over a little bit? You can't. I tell you what, right. He knows. He's such a smart guy. What does he do? He whips out his phone to get second screen content, and we'll add that into this interview because those Bellagio fountains are so spectacular. And look at this amazing view. Nikki, you are an incredible, incredible story, incredible woman.
We are Pro Cannabis Media.